Chapter 866, Scheming Against the Feather Men, You Phase Helplessness. Chapter 866, Scheming Against the Feather Men, You Phase Helplessness. Featherman Gua Mortal Zhongling had an ugly expression. Sir, do you think we are fish on the chopping block? Why must you force us like this? It must have been tough for you to develop this blessed land. If we destroy all of these resources in battle, would it not be a waste? Are you threatening us? Fang Yuan's red eyes shined with a ruthless light. Of course it is not a threat, but what we are saying is the truth, no? Gua Mortal Zhozhong said. Fang Yuan laughed internally. If other Gua Mortals were threatened like this, they might be wary and fearful. These two Featherman Gua Mortals might get their way, but they met Tai Bai Yunxing of all people. Tai Bai Yunxing's immortal Gu landscape as before was the perfect solution against their threat. The two Featherman Gua Mortals did not know about the existence of landscape as before immortal Gu, thus they said such words. According to Fang Yuan's intentions, they should kill these two Featherman Gua Mortals. But this was Tai Bai Yunxing's tribulation. Fang Yuan alone could not make the decision. And Tai Bai Yunxing was a kind old man. His nature was quite gentle and merciful. Thus, Fang Yuan did not speak. He looked at Tai Bai Yunxing. The two Featherman Gua Mortals also looked at Tai Bai Yunxing, waiting for the person in question to respond. The mortal Feathermen gazed at the sky with looks of awe, towards the four figures in the sky. Earlier, these mortal Feathermen had heard the conversation between Fang Yuan and the Featherman Gua Mortals clearly. Tai Bai Yunxing's decision was going to influence the fate of these tens of thousands of Feathermen. Some Feathermen were already praying internally, some were gritting their teeth, some were grimacing in pain. Yu Fei, who had just become the Featherman King, clenched his fists. He stared at the sky fixedly. He was originally a commoner. He was not like Prince Danyu, who knew a lot of secrets. This was the first time he had seen a Gua Mortal. He felt shock and at the same time, a deep sense of helplessness. Tai Bai Yunxing had been deep in consideration since the Feathermen appeared. A Featherman calamity was something Tai Bai Yunxing had not expected. These were intelligent living beings that could talk. If Tai Bai Yunxing let these Feathermen go, this earthly calamity would be over. If he did not, they would fight inside his immortal aperture. He might be able to recruit these Feathermen, but there was a huge risk of losing resources if they fought. He could not weigh the pros and cons easily. But no matter what he chose, it was a huge decision. Just as Fang Yuan expected, Tai Bai Yunxing was quite wishy-washy. Even though this was a critical moment, he could not decide. Seeing Fang Yuan gaze over, he also turned his head, seeking Fang Yuan's opinion with his inquiring gaze. Of course we will battle. Fang Yuan immediately transmitted, replying firmly. You have a mortal Gu landscape as before. You do not need to fear your immortal aperture suffering damage. The only losses are your float ball tea, sky chief clouds, and other resources. These things cannot be restored using landscape as before immortal Gu. But for this tribulation, you did not move these resources out. You were prepared to suffer losses anyway. Your main source of revenue is landscape as before immortal Gu. These resources earn little profit. Even if you lose them, you can start over again. These Feathermen number in tens of thousands. They can be turned into slaves. Feathermen are born with cloud path down marks. They are skilled at flying. All of the Feathermen elites are flying masters. But these two Featherman Gua Mortals cannot be allowed to live. Even if they do not primarily cultivate cloud path, killing them would get you a good number of cloud path down marks. They can be added to your blessed land. Isn't that what you want? This was an extremely rare opportunity. The two Featherman Gua Mortals were injured. They had no ways to escape from this place. As long as Tai Bai Yunxing did not open the doors, these Feathermen were birds trapped in a cage. Once he killed the two Featherman Gua Mortals, their immortal apertures would fall into Tai Bai blessed land. This was an extremely rare situation. When a Gua Mortal dies and leaves behind their immortal aperture, the immortal aperture would become an isolated blessed land and absorb heaven and earth chi from the world, just like earlier. After Fang Yuan took Star-Lord Wan Xiang's corpse, he purposely went into a deep part of Earth Abyss to place it down. The result was, after placing it down, the blessed land took in a huge amount of earth chi, but very little heaven chi. Because of the drawing in of earth chi, it resulted in an intense tremor in Earth Abyss. If the Featherman Gua Mortals died, their immortal apertures would fall into Tai Bai blessed land. They would take in heaven and earth chi. But Tai Bai blessed land was different from the 5 regions. This place was completely under Tai Bai Yunxing's control. The heaven and earth chi could not be extracted without his permission. If the immortal aperture could not turn into a separate blessed land, what would happen? There were records of this. In such situations, the immortal aperture would be destroyed. All of the resources inside the immortal aperture would be decimated with it. But all of the Tao marks inside the immortal aperture would be left behind, fusing into the outside world. And this outside world was tied by blessed land. As has been mentioned before, Tao marks were extremely precious because there was a huge cost to obtain them. Even if the entire blessed land was wrecked, if Tai Bai Yunxing could obtain all of the Tao marks of the two Featherman Gu immortals, this would definitely be a huge profit for him no matter what. Fang Yuan secretly transmitted, adding another sentence, "Old Bai, is your kindness acting up again? You want to pass up on such a great opportunity?" Tai Bai Yunxing's expression became firmer. He made up his mind. He transmitted, "Don't worry. Feathermen are variant humans. They are not humans like us. Since that is the case, and we're on opposing sides, let's battle and kill them. As for these Featherman captives, I will treat them kindly." After making up his mind, he was about to strike, but Fang Yuan secretly told him to stop. "Hold on. This is a great opportunity. How can we fight just like this? Let's probe them first." Tai Bai Yunxing knew about Fang Yuan's craftiness. He replied, "Then I will have to trouble you." The conversation between these two only lasted for a moment in the real world. Fang Yuan looked at the Featherman Gu immortals. He started his deception. "It is not that we cannot let you go, but you have to leave behind these mortal Feathermen. They will become our slaves." The two sides spoke openly without concealing anything. Fang Yuan's words immediately attracted an intense commotion from the tens of thousands of Feathermen. What? He wants us to become their slaves. Losing freedom is like losing our wings. No, even if I die, I will not become a slave of humans. Don't worry, we have our Gu immortal ancestors. They will not give up on us. That is impossible. The two Featherman Gu immortals had a determined expression. They immediately denied it. Fang Yuan was not surprised. Groups of variant humans were more united than humans. Dongfang Changfan schemed against his own tribesmen for his own sake. This would be much more unlikely with variant humans. Man is the spirit of all living beings. They have the highest intelligence, as well as complex thoughts. Variant humans, however, have lower intelligence and purer minds. They were not as wicked and scheming as humans. Of course, this had much to do with the situation of the different races now. Right now, humans ruled the 5 regions. They were the strongest. It was hard for variant humans to survive. They were ostracized and suppressed by humans. There were few variant human groups that had precious resources. No matter which region it was, variant human slaves were sold in the market. Among the races, humans held absolute dominance, while variant humans were definitely the weaker side. The weaker side, if they wanted to survive, they needed to stay united and help each other. That was the only way to withstand external pressure. Thus, the two Gu immortals were unwilling to give up the mortal Feathermen. They had a firm attitude. This was within Fang Yuan's expectations. He could tell that they were very determined. Fang Yuan quickly made a transmission. Tai Bai Yunxing showed an expression of feeling angered and offended. He repeated the words Fang Yuan transmitted to him. You Feathermen barged into my blessed land for no reason. This is an invasion. Not only did you invade my blessed land, you attacked us and threatened us. Now you want to leave? How can you not pay a price for this? Of course, you can fight your way out with these Feathermen. If you are strong enough, I will treat this as my bad luck. But if that is not the case, I will make sure to take good care of you all. How could the two Featherman Gu immortals have such strength left? If they did, why would they bother using words to converse with Fang Yuan? Even though they could still use the immortal killer move Heavenly Wish, but without the protection of the immortal Gu house. Sacred Feather City. Not only did Heavenly Wish need a huge amount of immortal essence, it also needed a lot of time to activate. Under such a situation, it was basically impossible to replicate their act of escaping earlier. Seeing that Fang Yuan was unwilling to relent, Gu immortal Zhou Zhong had no choice but to emphasize on the importance of the immortal aperture again. If they really fought, both sides would lose out. If we avoid direct combat and focus on dealing damage to your blessed land, at some point, the blessed land would face destruction and attract the winds of assimilation. That would be a bad ending for all of us. Zhou Zhong said with a threatening tone. They did not know about the existence of landscape as before. With landscape as before, wherever the blessed land got damaged, it could be fixed. It would never reach a point where the winds of assimilation are summoned. Under Fang Yuan's guidance, Tai Bai Yunxing flew into a rage. You dare threaten me? Battle it shall be. What am I afraid of? You think I'm a coward? I can take you down any time. He showed the demeanor of a battle maniac that could not keep his cool. Fang Yuan showed a wary expression, but refused to relent. He wanted to negotiate more. His actions gave the two Featherman Gu immortals hope that they could leave peacefully. After the two sides negotiated for a long time, Zhang Ling was the first to relent. He suggested that Fang Yuan's side could be compensated with a huge sum of immortal essence stones. Among the two of them, Zhou Zhong was acting as the aggressive party, while Zhang Ling was acting as the peaceful party. They cooperated with much coordination. Fang Yuan looked at Tai Bai Yunxing, as Tai Bai Yunxing got the hint and rolled his eyes. How could this amount of immortal essence stones compare to tens of thousands of Feathermen? Fight, fight. They could win at any time. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing had coordination that was not inferior to the other two. On the ground, the Feathermen were in a chaotic state. They were angered and yet helpless and anguished. This was a cruel world. This was the misery of the weak. Yu Fei shouted at the sky. Enough. Even if we die, we will not become lowly slaves. The feeling of being treated as livestock while they were used as bargaining chips in a negotiation was horrible. Shut up. Don't go and antagonize existences like Gu immortals. You are the new Featherman King. You have to think of the clan first. By taunting the Gu immortals like this, are you trying to drive our clan into the abyss? Then you scolded. Damn it. Damn it. Yu Fei gritted his teeth. His fists were clenched as his veins surfaced. He listened to Dan Yu's words and fell into silence. To Yu Fei, the change in circumstances happened too quickly. And too suddenly. He who aspired to become the Featherman King had achieved his goal. But this high and mighty position that he had dreamed of was so tiny and weak at this moment. Gu immortals were really too powerful compared to mortals. And no matter how hot-blooded he was, no matter how he risked his life, that gap in battle strength could not be breached. Chapter 867. Squashing a rank 7 Gu immortal. Zheng Ling suggested compensating with immortal essence stones, though Tai Bai Yunxing rejected him. Fang Yuan pretended to think about it. We want Featherman slaves, but you are only offering immortal essence stones. This conflict cannot be resolved. How about this? Let's take a step back and decide with our strength. Tai Bai Yunxing's attitude was firm. He showed the attitude of a battle maniac. During the conversation, he had been taunting them by saying, I can take you down at any time several times. If Shark Demon and the others who were familiar with Tai Bai Yunxing were here, they would think that this Tai Bai Yunxing was an imposter. Zhou Zhong and Zheng Ling exchanged glances. It was hard to talk to the battle maniac Tai Bai Yunxing, but it seemed like the immortal zombie, Fang Yuan, was in charge of the decision-making. This was not strange to the Featherman Gu immortals. After all, Fang Yuan showed rank 7 battle strength earlier. The two communicated secretly. They both felt that Fang Yuan was much easier to talk to than Tai Bai Yunxing. He was more reasonable. The other party is an immortal zombie. His immortal aperture cannot produce immortal essence. That's why he has a careful nature. We have to make use of this trait. But this blessed land belongs to that damned old man. This old man has quite a fiery temper at this age. It seems his battle strength cannot be underestimated. Be vigilant. Forget it. The situation is in their favor now. Let's listen to what the immortal zombie has to suggest. The two Featherman Gu immortals analyzed this situation. It seemed to them that it was a reasonable understanding of it. But what they did not know was that they had fallen into the trap that Fang Yuan had specially made for them. Please speak. After discussing, Zhou Zhong said to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan spoke. In the world of Gu immortals, benefits are the most important thing. It is decided by battle strength. We will hold 10 duels. For every duel we win, you will split 10% of the Feathermen to us. But for each that we lose, we will accept only a sum of immortal essence stones as compensation. Zhou Zhong was unwilling. He shouted, be it winning or losing, you are benefiting from it. Fang Yuan smiled lightly and did not reply. Tai Bai Yunxing started howling. Why are you complaining? If you don't want this, let's fight. My fists are itching to hit something. I can take you down at any time. If you dare to destroy my immortal aperture, I will slaughter these mortal Feathermen first. In the worst case, we go down together. Who is afraid of who? He showed the perfect example of a brainless battle maniac. Zhou Zhong and Zheng Ling ignored him completely, showing an expression of not wanting to stoop to his level of intelligence. The two started to discuss their decisions using transmissions. Fang Yuan pressured them at the right timing. If you do not agree to this, we will have to battle. These words made to the hearts of these two feathermen immortals jump. They understood clearly that in the current situation, sacrifice was unavoidable. The most logical decision was to minimize their losses. Eventually, Zhongling nodded, agreeing to the duels. But he had a precondition. They had to use the information path immortal killer move that they had to form an agreement, similar to Mountain Pledge Gu, as the restriction on both parties. Regardless of the result, after 10 duels, Fang Yuan's side was not to cause problems for the Feathermen. They had to open the door and let everyone else leave, without any form of obstruction. The Feathermen actually had such an information path killer move. Their foundation was quite deep. Fang Yuan was fairly surprised to start things off. The Gu immortal Zhou Zhong entered the stage for the first duel. On Fang Yuan's side, Tai Bai Yun Sheng went to battle. He was oozing with battle intent. As he showed a bloodthirsty expression, he shouted, "Come, I will take you down in just a moment." Zhou Zhong really was fooled by his demeanor. After all, he was only a variant human. Their intelligence was inferior to humans. Most importantly, Zhou Zhong had his reservations. He did not want to sacrifice his clansmen. He did not want any feathermen to lose their freedom and become the slaves of humans. Thus, he chose his specialty for the duel. "What? You want to compete in flying speed alone?" Tai Bai Yun Sheng was shocked. "According to the agreement, we are the first to decide what type of duel it is. Are you going back on your words?" "I will let you decide this time." Tai Bai Yun Sheng showed an upset and irritated expression. The result of this duel was obvious. Tai Bai Yun Sheng only had a mortal killer move for flying. The other party not only had wings, they even had an immortal killer move specially used for movement. After seeing the results, the feathermen on the ground erupted into loud cheers. After all, their freedom was at stake. They could have become slaves. They were very nervous when they watched the duel. "Here are your immortal essence stones." Zhou Zhong laughed loudly. He handed the dozen immortal essence stones to Tai Bai Yun Sheng in a proud manner. Tai Bai Yun Sheng received them with a gloomy expression, but he was filled with admiration towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan is truly good at scheming. The other party paid immortal essence stones, but they are acting like this was a huge victory for them. I am inferior to him. In the first duel, Fang Yuan lost. Fang Yuan went for the second duel because he had rank 7 battle strength. The Featherman Gu Immortals did not dare to be careless. They sent the stronger Gu Immortal Zhongling to duel him. Fang Yuan suggested, "We will compete using speed." Zhongling's expression froze for a second before he agreed. Fang Yuan lost this duel very quickly as well. Zhongling also had an immortal killer move. His speed was twice as fast as that of Zhou Zhong. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan had 3 pairs of true solid bat wings. They were all desolate beast wings. But in this duel, he did not manage to activate the Iron Crown Eagle Strength Immortal Gu at all. Thus, he had no hopes of winning. Third duel, fourth duel, fifth duel, duels after duels. Fang Yuan's side had no victories, while the Featherman Gu Immortals were winning with 0 losses. The results were one-sided. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yun Sheng's expression became uglier in the process. The two Featherman Gu Immortals had confident and lax expressions. They were starting to realize that their enemies were all bark and no bite. They were just putting up a front. For example, the immortal zombie Fang Yuan was only rank 7 in terms of attack. He only had mortal killer moves for defense, along with his immortal zombie body's defense. In terms of healing, he only had the basic recovery ability of an immortal zombie. As for movement and investigative methods, he did not have immortal killer moves. Meanwhile, Tai Bai Yun Sheng was very rash and haughty, but in terms of battle strength, he was a mess. He only used mortal killer moves. The two Featherman Gu Immortals felt like they had been scammed. It turns out that these two are so weak. If we had known this, we would have fought from the start. Sai, humans are the most skilled at scheming. We have already used the information path immortal killer move and restricted ourselves. We can only leave this place and cannot attack. Thinking about it, we were too stunned by the earlier human Gu immortal invaders. Due to the foundation of our sacred feather city, we are superior to most human Gu immortals. The two of them are quite impressive, but they are not our match at all. Like this, the two Featherman Gu immortals won 9 rounds. Only the last duel was left, and no matter what happened in this duel, after it ended, Fang Yuan's side would not be able to obstruct the Feathermen due to the agreement. He had to let them leave it on the ground. Cheers of victory were already resounding. The new Featherman King, Yu Fei, had a better expression now. His eyes were shining brightly as he looked at the two Gu immortals of the Featherman clan. He had another grand ambition now. I've decided. As long as I become a Gu immortal, I would become a true man. I must become a Gu immortal. Even if I need to give up being king, I will become a Gu immortal. Fang Yuan took a step forward as his voice turned very cold. This is the final duel. All four of us will fight in a battle of attack and defense. I will attack, and you will defend for the first round, and you will attack, while I defend for the following round. Our partner can only use healing methods. When one side is unable to continue, they will lose. Zhou Zhong and Zheng Ling exchanged glances. They frowned as they realized something amiss. Fang Yuan was making the dueling rules to complete display their advantage. Meanwhile, Zheng Ling and Zhou Zhong could not object to this duel request. They could only accept it. In this case, the 10th duel is the hardest one of all. This is the final round. After we win, we will be able to protect all of the Feathermen and leave safely. The two Gu immortal conversed mentally as they went forth to battle. Sir, please attack. Zheng Ling took a step forward, saying. Fang Yuan did not speak. He was 1,000 steps away from Zheng Ling. He grabbed towards the other party. Rumble, a strength path giant hand tore through space and grabbed at Zheng Ling fiercely. Zheng Ling suppressed his instinct to dodge. He activated his defensive killer move as a suit of armor made of light appeared on his body. The armor looked very real. It blocked the strength path giant hand. Fang Yuan's expression did not change. He had already seen. This armor made of light in the 4th duel. It was a light path defensive immortal killer move. Blocked. Zhou Zhong shouted happily. It is time for us to strike. Fang Yuan scoffed. Sir, are you forming a conclusion so quickly? My attack is not an instantaneous type, but a sustained attack. I have not ended my attack yet. It is okay. Sir can continue attacking. Zheng Ling said in a low voice. In the duels earlier, Fang Yuan had attacked as well. Zheng Ling felt that he could block Myriad's self-giant hand completely. But at the next moment, Fang Yuan showed a ruthless smile as Zheng Ling's expression changed. Earlier, Fang Yuan had been hiding his strength, only using one core immortal Gu. Now he used all of his core immortal Gu at once. The strength path giant hand was breaking the light path defensive method as creaking sounds could be heard. Oh no, at this rate, Lord Zheng Ling will become meat paste. Zhou Zhong was shocked. Zheng Ling, consider it well, my giant hand is only an attack. It cannot restrict your movement. But if you break out of it now, you will be breaking our agreement. In that case, you will be violating our earlier agreement, and the duels will be voided. Fang Yuan scoffed. Damn it. I'll go all out. Zheng Ling shouted angrily. He activated another defensive killer move. It was an immortal killer move. Two immortal killer moves stacked together, blocking the strength path giant hand at this point. Both parties fell into a deadlock again. Indeed, he is just a rank 6 immortal zombie. How can he fight a drawn-out battle with Lord Zheng Ling? Zhou Zhong calmed down. But a moment later, Fang Yuan was still full of vigor, while Zheng Ling was starting to get anxious. He was unable to hold on. Oh no. The other party must be using our immortal essence stones and converting it into immortal essence. In contrast, we have lost a lot of our foundation after an intense battle, so we are the first to run out of immortal essence. Realizing the reason, Zhou Zhong felt an immense anger and melancholy. It was hard to describe with words at the same time. He started to fluster. What shall we do now? If I want to help him, I can only use healing methods. Otherwise, we would be violating the duel agreement, and the earlier duels would be voided. He was there physically, but he felt like he was miles away. Zhou Zhong was helpless. The trap that Fang Yuan had created painstakingly was taking effect times. Your former achievements would be the greatest obstacle for you to achieve greater success. If they won this round, they would obtain complete victory. They would save all of the Feathermen and bring them to safety. They were one duel away, just one duel. If they violated the rules, all of it would be nullified. This mentality made Zheng Ling choose to continue holding on, and Zhou Zhong was full of sweat and worried, but he could not interfere. It is over. Fang Yuan laughed loudly. 7 other strength path giant hands flew out. The strength path giant hand slammed at the featherman on the ground with overwhelming force. "What are you doing?" Zhou Zhong howled. He was like a furious dragon whose scales were plucked. "Don't fall into his trap. He is trying to lure you into attacking so that you will break the rules. The other part is at his wit's end. We need to continue enduring." Zheng Ling shouted. Zhou Zhong was stunned. His gaze towards Fang Yuan changed. "Aren't immortal zombies slow in cognition? Why is this guy so scheming?" While he was stunned, Fang Yuan approached Zheng Ling and spat at him. Immortal killer move. Poison spit. This was a modified immortal killer move that originated from harboring malicious heart, using woman's heart immortal goo as the core. Since Fang Yuan had obtained it, he had been keeping it secret. This was the first time he was using it. Zheng Ling was caught off guard. He was poisoned by this immediately. He had a method to heal himself, of course, but at this moment, his mind was distracted, and he reacted a moment more slowly. By the time he was going to detoxify himself, the poison was already very deep. The moment of life and death was often decided in an instant. Unscrupulous, Zheng Ling stared at Fang Yuan fixedly. This was his last word. With a loud thud, he lost control and was squashed into meat paste by the strength path giant hands. "Lord Zheng Ling!" Zhou Zhong screamed in fury. Everything happened too quickly. By the time Zhou Zhong reacted, it was too late. He did not have an immortal goo like man as before. Fang Yuan attacked Zhou Zhong with his other strength path giant hands. You cannot defend, attack, or dodge. Don't forget, according to this duel's rules, you can only use healing methods. Fang Yuan shouted. Zhou Zhong heard this, and his eyes almost popped out. He was going to spit out blood from anger. How would he fight like that? He would have to retaliate, dodge, or defend himself, but all those violated the rules. It would nullify all of their past wins. On his side, the one in charge of attacking and defending, Zheng Ling, was dead. He could only use healing methods now, but once the strength path giant hands grabbed him, he would be killed on the spot. No healing techniques were going to save him. Even if Fang Yuan could not kill him and he could heal himself, he could not retaliate. That was against the rules. Fang Yuan was assured to win. This was truly bullying the feathermen. At this moment, looking at Zhou Zhong's dazed expression, even Tai by Yunsheng showed a look of pity and sympathy. Chapter 868, Gu Immortal Slave. At the moment between life and death, the remaining Gu Immortal, Zhou Zhong, had a burst of inspiration. He realized the most direct way to change the current situation. "I admit defeat," he shouted. Fang Yuan's attacks came to a stop. Zhou Zhong was breathing roughly. In just a moment, he was drenched in sweat. The tens of thousands of feathermen on the ground reacted after a while. They shouted in shock that in just moments, the rank 7 Gu Immortal of the feathermen died, and Zhou Zhong had no choice but to admit defeat. Fang Yuan's meticulous plotting showed its ruthless effect. The feathermen paid a heavy price. They lost terribly. This was a completely different situation from earlier. The difference was like of heaven and earth. It was no wonder that the feathermen were shocked. Zhou Zhong's expression was pale. He felt some trepidation internally as he spoke. "I lost. According to the agreement, the 10 duels are over. We are going to leave this place." His gaze towards Fang Yuan and Tai by Yunsheng was filled with deep hatred and anger. The other party killed the featherman Gu Immortal Zheng Ling. But now, Zhou Zhong had insufficient strength. He could not exact revenge. How could he take revenge? If Zheng Ling was still alive, if he collaborated with Zhou Zhong, they would definitely suppress Fang Yuan and Tai by Yunsheng. This was the truth. Zheng Ling and Zhou Zhong had very deep foundations. Out of Fang Yuan's expectations, they might not have many immortal Gu, but they had deduced many immortal killer moves. These immortal killer moves encompassed attack, defense, movement, healing, and investigation. They did not have any apparent shortfalls that in contrast. Fang Yuan and Tai by Yunsheng used mostly mortal killer moves. If they really fought, it would be hard for them to gain any advantage as they would be inferior in these aspects. Of course, this was Tai by Blessed Land. Fang Yuan's side had the territorial advantage, but do not forget, Blessed Lands could not restrict immortal Gu and immortal killer moves. Thus, Zhou Zhong could only suppress his anger as well as the desire to take revenge. He decided to not settle the score with Fang Yuan for now. The urgent matter now was to escape and find a new place to live with his clansmen. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng could not stop him from making that request. The reason was simple. They had used the information path immortal killer move earlier. Once Fang Yuan's side did something that violates the agreement, they would face a harsh backlash. They would die on the spot. Fang Yuan was not like Fairy Li Shan. He did not have a time path killer move like delay with him. Thus, he could not break the agreement. In fact, Zhou Zhong was very conscious of this. He was hoping that Fang Yuan would violate the agreement. If that happens, the enemies would be wiped out, and this blessed land would become the Featherman's property. Regarding the condition for ownership from Tai by land spirit, that would be something to think about later. Of course, Fang Yuan and Tai by Yunsheng could not attack. They also could not summon outsiders like Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan to interfere. Even though the Feathermen did not have the intelligence of humans, such an obvious loophole would still be handled if Fang Yuan summoned reinforcements. He would be violating the agreement. He would die. Indeed, the 10 duels have ended. According to our earlier agreement, we have to open the doors and let the remaining Feathermen leave. Fang Yuan nodded, saying to Zhou Zhong, "Don't worry, we won't go back on our words." Good. Zhou Zhong let out a breath of cloudy air. He felt much regret towards Fang Yuan's act of keeping his word, but Fang Yuan's words shifted. But what? Zhou Zhong looked at him nervously. Fang Yuan laughed lightly. "We won the 10th duel. According to the rules, I can choose slaves from among the Feathermen on the ground, and the rest will be allowed to leave." Zhou Zhong sighed. He looked at the clansmen on the ground, feeling very complicated. His fingers were stabbing into his flesh. Fang Yuan and Tai by Yunsheng descended as they started picking slaves from among these Feathermen. The Feathermen were flustered. They were afraid of getting chosen. "Don't move. Let me choose properly," Fang Yuan purposely shouted. The Feathermen were even more fearful now. They were like chicks in front of an eagle. This girl is not bad." Fang Yuan pretended to think about it. He beckoned with his finger as a young girl was restrained by a formless force, pulled towards him from the Featherman group. "No, I don't want to." The Featherman girl's eyes oozed with tears of helplessness. "Let go of my fiancé." A young Featherman charged up before any of the Feathermen could stop him. Fang Yuan's eyes shined with a ruthless light. He snorted, courting death. He did not make any evident movements, but the Featherman youngster, who was merely a rank 2 Gu master, froze in the air as he was flying. His face distorted as his body went into spasms, but the next moment, he fell onto the ground. Even though he was caught by the surrounding Feathermen, blood was running rampant in his entire body. His 7 orifices were bursting with blood. He was going to die. "What did you do?" Zhou Zhong was furious. He landed on the ground and pressed on the Featherman youngster's chest, healing him personally. The Featherman youngster was hit by Fang Yuan's blood path methods. His blood ran wild and spurred outside. But with Zhou Zhong's suppression, the attack was resolved and the Featherman youngster's life was saved. Zhou Zhong raised his head and looked at Fang Yuan. His expression was dark. "Sir, you attacked a mortal. That is insulting to the status of a Gu immortal. And I remember that in the agreement, you are not to freely attack or kill our Feathermen." Fang Yuan shrugged. Gu immortals have their status, but even more than that, their authority is not to be offended. I did not violate the agreement. He was the one who had intentions to attack me. It is stated in the agreement clearly that if the mortal Feathermen attempt to attack me, I have the rights to kill them. Isn't that right? Zhou Zhong could not reply to this. In terms of playing around rules, Fang Yuan was much stronger than him. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. "Don't worry, I will not violate the agreement." Zhou Zhong gritted his teeth. His eyes were spewing fire. "Then I will choose you as my next slave, Zhou Zhong." Suddenly, Fang Yuan pointed at Zhou Zhong. He showed a smile, like his scheme had succeeded. What? What did you say?" At this moment, Zhou Zhong almost thought that he was hearing things. He wanted a Gu immortal to become his slave. How could this be possible? Zhou Zhong looked at Fang Yuan in disbelief. "Did the other party go crazy?" Fang Yuan said with a smile. "Zhou Zhong, did you forget? Our agreement was, as long as my side wins, I can choose a portion of these Feathermen on the ground and make them into my slaves." Fang Yuan placed an emphasis on the words "on the ground." Zhou Zhong felt like a thunderbolt had struck him. He was stunned on the spot, not moving at all. The surrounding Feathermen were no longer flustered and jumping around. They were frozen like statues, staring at their Gu immortal, staring at his feet. Zhou Zhong was stepping on the ground. At this moment, Zhou Zhong's expression was very interesting. It turned from pale as paper to dark and solemn. His wings fluttered subconsciously. He wanted to raise his legs as if the floor was lava. It was burning his legs. Fang Yuan laughed in a monstrous manner. A crafty light was shining in his red eyes. The moment you stepped on the ground, you became my slave. Zhou Zhong, even if you fly now, it is too late. Zhou Zhong shouted at Fang Yuan. This is a trap. This is an evil plot. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. He showed a look of smugness and shamelessness. That is right. This is a trap. This is an evil plot. Unfortunately, you fell for it. Beside him, Tai Bai Yun Sheng sighed. You can only blame yourselves for neglecting your own bodies. Indeed, the authority of Gu immortals cannot be offended. It is rare for slaves to be Gu immortals. When we set the agreement, you were both flying in the air, away from the ground. Thus you did not notice this trap. Of course, if you realized it and did not step on the ground, there was also nothing we could do. But you had a guilty conscience. You wanted to sacrifice a portion of the feathermen and let them become slaves so as to obtain freedom for you and the rest of the feathermen. Cough, cough. Fang Yuan coughed. Old Bai, even if he did not land on the ground, I still have my ways. We can pick our slaves slowly. We can take a year or two and directly cripple the feathermen. They need food and water to survive, but Tai Bai blessed land is yours. Due to the agreement, they cannot inflict any damage on the blessed land. As long as we do not pick our slaves, they will be prisoners inside the blessed land. This time, even Tai Bai Yun Sheng looked at Fang Yuan with shock. Zhou Zhong opened his mouth wide. At this moment, he felt that he was simply too foolish and naive. Chapter 869. Freedom of the Feathermen. The whole area was covered in deathly silence. Sorrow, fear, and loss shrouded the hearts of all the feathermen. Zhou Zhong was the only Gu immortal remaining among the feathermen. If even he was no longer there, and became a slave of humans, how would these remaining feathermen survive? The current 5 regions, or rather, the whole world, could be said to belong to humans. The space for variant humans to survive was very small. And this already small space continued to shrink. Zhou Zhong's mouth, wide open from shock, slowly closed. He looked up at Fang Yuan, as if he was looking at a monster, and asked, Is your immortal zombie appearance fake? How can an immortal zombie scheme all this? Fang Yuan was slightly dazed. Not having expected Zhou Zhong to suddenly calm down, he immediately had a bad feeling. Tai Bai Yunxing, who was beside him, spoke with compassion. Give up, Zhou Zhong. Even if you become a slave, I can promise that you will never be treated unfairly. I will also not limit your freedom during normal times. I will only ask for your service during critical times. Let these feathermen behind you live in my blessed land from now on. Rest assured, I will not be harsh on them or maltreat them. I will also pay corresponding rewards for their work. Sigh, Tai Bai Yunxing heaved a sigh. His benevolent nature had emerged again. However, Zhou Zhong shook his head slightly 3 times. The smile on the corners of Fang Yuan's lips disappeared as his expression turned grave. Afterwards, he saw that the Gu immortal Zhou Zhong suddenly turned around towards the large group of feather men and gave a deep bow. Everyone. Zhou Zhong's tone was extremely calm, but it revealed a decisive intent. His voice was not loud, but it resounded in everyone's ears. I have done all of you a disservice. This world only has the Gu immortal Zhou Zhong, the featherman Zhou Zhong, but there will absolutely not be a slave Zhou Zhong. It was truly a shame that I could not protect you all. Goodbye. He then suddenly spread his wings. The wings of feathermen were not wide like eagle wings or thick like vulture wings, but were slender and exquisite. Zhou Zhong, what is the point of this? Stop quickly. Tai Bai Yunxing was shocked and wanted to stop him. But how could he stop a Gu immortal who was seeking death of his own accord? Zhou Zhong suddenly flapped his wings and flew towards the sky. While flying towards the sky, he shouted, I, Zhou Zhong, I am a featherman. I will not become a slave. At this moment, everyone's gazes were gathered on him. He violated the agreement. He stepped on the ground and was successfully trapped by Fang Yuan, becoming a slave. However, Zhou Zhong was not willing and went against the agreement on his own initiative. The information path immortal killer move on him erupted. The intense backlash that he could not endure assaulted Zhou Zhong's entire body. The more Zhou Zhong flew, the slower he became. His 2 wings were also becoming difficult to move. Right now, His appearance of flying in the sky was like that of an old man who was approaching death and stumbling on his legs, but still kept on climbing towards a precipitous peak. His whole body started crystallizing rapidly, and soon he turned into a transparent glass crystal statue. His two wings turned into crystal glass-like objects, moving no longer. However, his eyes were still gazing at the blue sky, not even sparing a glance at Fang Yuan and Tai Baiyunsheng, the gaze carrying endless bravery and decisiveness. He then started to slowly fall down to the ground. His whole body started to crumble apart while falling. First his head, then his chest, his wings, stomach, then his legs. Before landing on the ground, he had already turned into a sheet of broken glass and crystal fragments. There was no wind in Tai Bai blessed land. These crystal glass fragments, however, seemed to flutter. The more they fluttered, the more they crumbled. They continued to break apart until they disintegrated in the air. Zhou Zhong, Tai Baiyunsheng mumbled in a daze. Indeed, this guy. Fang Yuan's expression was dark. He did not make Tai Baiyunsheng revive Zhou Zhong. One who was not afraid of even death and was not willing to be a slave, simply had no value. Moreover, Zhou Zhong was a Gu immortal. The immortal essence needed to revive him would not be low. Even if he was revived, his immortal Gu were already gone. And Tai Baiyunsheng also would not be able to absorb his immortal aperture. On the contrary, it was better to let him die. His immortal aperture would be unable to absorb heaven and earth chi. The blessed land would break apart. After breaking up, all the Dao marks of Zhou Zhong in the immortal aperture would be added to Tai Bai blessed land. Zhou Zhong's death caused all the Feathermen to fall into silence. The silence only lasted for a while, before the new Featherman King, Yu Fei, shouted loudly. I, Yu Fei, also am not willing to be a slave. Everybody, have you still not realized it? These two human Gu immortals are demons. They had already planned to catch us all. They absolutely won't let us go. All of you, choose a new Featherman King. I will follow old ancestor Zhou Zhong and take my leave first. After saying that, he suicided on the spot. Our king. The Feathermen roused, shouting in such fury that their voices shook the surrounding areas. Right? There are no slave Feathermen in this world. There are only free Feathermen. Even if I die, I am free. As long as our hearts beat for freedom, there will not be any slave Feathermen. Take our corpses as your slaves. The Feathermen shouted, howled, muttered, or ridiculed. Zhou Zhong and Yu Fei's actions inspired the Feathermen. Unexpectedly, they all chose to suicide. Damn it. Are you still not stopping them? A bunch of mortals. Humph. Tai Baiyunsheng, quickly use man as before. We cannot forego this wealth. We will make them unable to die even if they want to. Fang Yuan snorted. However, Tai Baiyunsheng showed no signs of movement. Tai Baiyunsheng, what are you doing? Fang Yuan turned around and was immediately shocked. Tai Baiyunsheng's face was filled with struggle and hesitation. He said to Fang Yuan with difficulty, Fang Yuan, there are two voices shouting in my head right now. One voice tells me to be logical and raise these Feathermen as slaves. The other voice, however, is shouting loudly for me to give up. These Feathermen are true Feathermen. They cannot be disgraced. Even feeling sympathy for them is a humiliation towards them. As he said this, Tai Baiyunsheng's eyes were unexpectedly glistening with tears. Damn it. An eerie light imperceptibly flashed past Fang Yuan's eyes without anyone noticing. If these Feathermen were raised as slaves, it would be a great help to Fang Yuan's plans in Western Desert as well. But at this crucial moment, Tai Baiyunsheng's heart actually softened. Fang Yuan could not help but shout furiously in his mind, this fool, I can't scheme with him. As he said this internally, he suddenly grabbed Tai Baiyunsheng's shoulder with his monstrous arm. The words that came from his mouth, however, were very different. Let it be. Old Bai, you are correct. These Feathermen are the true Feathermen from the legends of Renzu. You don't need to hesitate. You can let them die for freedom. Fang Yuan, Tai Baiyunsheng's expression immediately relaxed as he looked gratefully at the immortal zombie before him, and said with some shame, it was not easy for you to think of this plan. But in the end, because of me, Fang Yuan interrupted him. Don't mention it. Everyone has their own principles. Although I don't approve of it, I can understand it. I will support you. Fang Yuan. Tai Baiyunsheng's voice was choked with emotions, and he almost teared up. Fang Yuan spoke in a profound voice. Do you know why those two Featherman Gu immortals fell to my scheme? Hiki, do you remember that I obtained the wisdom path inheritance from Dongfang Changfan? You mean? Tai Baiyunsheng stared blankly. Fang Yuan sighed. Wisdom path methods are indeed incredibly hard to defend against effectively. Fortunately, there have always been very few wisdom path Gu immortals. I now have a complete wisdom path inheritance. We must not fail to take measures against such methods. Old Bai, although you pass the earthly calamity, don't be in a hurry to go to Eastern Sea. I will use some wisdom path methods on you to deal with other wisdom path Gu immortals. Tai Bai Yunxing was extremely moved, bowing at Fang Yuan. Then I shall trouble you. Haha, we are family, there is no need for thanks. Fang Yuan dismissed it indifferently, his gaze once again landing on the ground. In just a few moments, all the feathermen on the ground had suicided. There was not even one who wanted to remain alive. Fang Yuan momentarily showed a slightly moved expression. The feathermen seeking death of their own accord made him recall a person in the depths of his memories. In fact, this person was also a featherman. When Fang Yuan was still a mortal Gu master in his previous life, this featherman, who was an assassin, tried to kill Fang Yuan multiple times. One who understands you even more than friends is often your enemy. Fang Yuan remembered that one time during a difficult battle, he had discovered the secret of this strong assassin who repeatedly tried to kill him. This assassin was not a human, but a featherman. You are a featherman? Your wings have been cut off? That is so sad. Fang Yuan used a verbal attack. I myself cut off this pair of wings. The featherman assassin laughed sinisterly. Do you want to know why? Fang Yuan's expression slightly changed. Why? Because the Featherman village's chief always praised me, saying I am a Featherman genius that came by once in 100 years, the pillar of the Featherman village, a flying quasi-grandmaster, and whatnot. It was truly annoying. The chief always warned me that I am a Featherman and I am part of the village. I wanted to leave the village to see the world. Not only did the chief dissuade me, even all the Feathermen in the village stopped me. I know they were afraid I would reveal the location of the village and attract human slave hunters. So one day, I could not withstand it any longer and cut off my wings. Then on that very day, I killed all the Feathermen in the village. As he said this Featherman assassin's expression was one of pride. He smiled lightly. What? Fang Yuan was shocked. The Featherman assassin shrugged indifferently. You have read The Legends of Renzu, right? Feathermen believe in freedom. My heart for freedom only happened to be dozens of times more vigorous than ordinary feathermen. My featherman identity bound me, so I cut off my wings. The village I grew up in and the villagers constrained me, so I killed them. Because in this world, no one can restrict my freedom. Fang Yuan's expression immediately turned heavy and he was on full alert. Back then, he had yet to tread on the demonic path. Immediately he shouted, You lunatic! Ha! The featherman assassin laughed loudly. Thanks for the compliment. He added, Actually, you and I are of the same kind. Who the hell is the same kind as you? Fang Yuan's young face showed a furious expression as he shouted and pounced forward to fight. Chapter 870, Freedom Gu. States, Renzu walked on his own road of life. After separating with the hairy man leader, he encountered feathermen in Green Heaven. Renzu was extremely happy when he saw these feathermen, because feathermen had wings on their back, and since the feathermen could understand Renzu's words, both sides could communicate. Renzu requested the feathermen, Feathermen, please help me. My daughter is in ordinary abyss and cannot come out. Please fly down and rescue my daughter. Let us father and daughter reunite. The feathermen laughed loudly. Human, how can you order us? Us feathermen are the most free living beings in the world. No one can order us or bind us. You want us to listen to your request and follow your wish. That is impossible. Renzu kept on persuading, and even pleaded with them, but the feathermen simply kept on flying in the air, enjoying the pleasure of freedom. Renzu's mouth had already dried, but the feathermen only treated him as a clown, ridiculing Renzu as if they were looking at a joke. Oh look, such a pitiful human. So what if he is the life form with the most intelligence in the world? He doesn't have wings and can only walk on the ground. He is so pitiful. Fortunately, I am not a human, but a featherman. See how vigorously I can fly. In Renzu's heart of loneliness, Self-Gu started getting angrier as it heard these words. Finally, it could not hold the anger back and jumped out. All of you, come down. Self-Gu displayed its might, capturing all the feathermen in the sky at once. Renzu could not help but become greatly startled at this. Self-Gu, when did you become so strong? Self-Gu said proudly, It is only natural. I took a bite out of strength Gu. Now that I have my own strength, I possess immense might. Moreover, there is no need to pay any price to use this strength. Human, you need to know, what is most reliable is your own strength. And without strength, freedom is just an illusion. The feathermen were captured and could no longer fly to the sky, pressed onto the ground without being able to move. They began to throw curses at Renzu and Self-Gu in anger. Renzu heaved a sigh. Feathermen, I did not mean to offend you. Please forgive my rudeness. I only want to ask you to save my daughter. When I reunite with her, I will definitely reward you. Impossible. We Feathermen are the most free. Even if our bodies lose freedom, our hearts are still free. Right, right? Cruel human, you can't impose your will on any Featherman. The Feathermen kept on shouting without any intention to compromise. Renzu persuaded them for 3 days and 3 nights, but it was in vain. Helpless, he could only let go of these Feathermen. Self-Gu spoke bitterly. Human, how could you release them so easily? Don't you want to rescue your 4th child? Renzu, however, replied confidently, I have already understood that these Feathermen cannot be forced. After these days of contact with the Feathermen, I have found these Feathermen might be free, but they don't have dens to shelter themselves from wind and rain, and they also don't have enough food to fill their stomachs. To make them help, I have to make them do it willingly. Thereupon, Renzu built a house near the Feathermen. Every day, he relied on Self-Gu to gather a lot of wild fruits and hunt many beasts. The Feathermen soon discovered the safety and warmth of the house. Especially during the days of storms, the Feathermen could only hide in groves of trees, shivering and starving. While Renzu stayed within his house, enjoying the warmth of a fireplace and sumptuous food. On one cold night, some Feathermen quietly moved under the roof of Renzu's house to evade the wind and snow, while also greedily absorbing the warmth leaking out from the crack in the door. Renzu wore the mask of attitude Gu and opened the door, using an extremely warm attitude to invite these Feathermen into the house, and to enjoy the warmth and food with him. As this repeated several times, more and more Feathermen came into Renzu's house. Renzu was very hospitable and would entertain the Feathermen every day, even giving the area near the fireplace to the Feathermen. No matter how much the Feathermen ate, he let them eat without restraint. The Feathermen gradually became accustomed to living this way, until one day, Renzu saw the timing was ripe and took off attitude Gu, revealing his true cold expression. He shut the door of the house and stored all the food as well, no longer supplying them to the Feathermen for free. The Feathermen were caught off guard and were frantic. They were already used to the safety and warmth of the house. They were used to plentiful food. They rarely flew now and hunted even less. Their stockpile of food was extremely small. Many Feathermen were fat to the extent they could not fly. The Feathermen had no way to deal with Renzu's behavior. They could not beat Renzu, who possessed Self-Gu. Soon, all the Feathermen reached a situation where they would die from hunger or the cold. Several days later, many Feathermen died. Renzu waited and waited until he became extremely anxious. As the Feathermen showed no signs of coming to terms with him. In the end, when most of the Feathermen died, Renzu could not help but mention the old matter again. Feathermen, as long as you move your wings to fly to ordinary abyss and rescue my daughter, I will give you enough food and also warm houses. However, the remaining Feathermen still shook their heads. Eventually, they all died. From these Feathermen's corpses, many small creatures flew out. They looked like tiny specks of light, shining with all kinds of colors. Renzu tried to grab them, but was not able to. It is no use. Cognition Gu informed him at this moment. Wild freedom Gu cannot be caught. These Feathermen chased after freedom since their birth, but it is a pity that only after their death could they find freedom. Central Continent, Hu Immortal Blessed Land, Dang Hun Palace. Fang Yuan slowly withdrew his monstrous arm. The Featherman Gu Immortal Zhengling's soul, however, was extremely listless as it weakly floated in the air.gu. Immortal Zhou Zhong had violated the agreement, thus his soul was already extinguished. As for Zhengling, who had died first, because he had only been attacked by Fang Yuan with Poison Path and Strength Path killer moves, only his body had perished and his soul had been preserved. Fang Yuan had secretly stored his soul into his immortal aperture on the spot. Since ancient times, Soul Path, Wisdom Path and Enslavement Path were closely related. Since Fang Yuan had obtained Dong Fang Chang Fan's Wisdom Path inheritance, he also gained some comprehension of the other paths, as such his attainment in Soul Path and Enslavement Path had also increased by a bit. Most of all, Fang Yuan had used the Light of Wisdom to repeatedly improve the Immortal Killer move Myriad Self, not only adding a few core Immortal Gu one after another, but also adding many Soul Path Mortal Gu. This coordination made it so that when the giant hand killed the enemy, the injured soul would be captured by Fang Yuan. If others did not pay attention, they would think Fang Yuan had destroyed the soul as well. But in fact, Fang Yuan secretly captured the soul. Even Tai Bai Yunxing did not sense this as he did not have an immortal-level investigative killer move. Fang Yuan also did not inform him. The value of a Gu Immortal's soul was far higher than a Gu Immortal's will or mortal souls. Fang Yuan had just ended his first soul search. From this soul search, he learned the origin of this group of Feathermen. They are a Featherman clan in Western Desert, living for generations in a fragment world of green heaven. No wonder they have such ancient customs, even suiciding rather than lowering their heads to become slaves. A life of peace with plentiful resources, a united clan without any powerful external enemies, this instead corroded the minds of these Feathermen. Whitesea Shatua, who is this person? He was able to gather so many people to siege Sacred Feather City. Moreover, he was using such superior means that are beyond imagination. They could actually restrict an immortal Gu house, causing the Feathermen to flee in desperation. Fang Yuan rummaged through his mind, but could not find any information about Whitesea Shatuo.I in the end. Fang Yuan could only sigh. Western Desert is also a place hiding dragons and tigers. In conclusion, the benefits from this tribulation in Tai Bai blessed land were huge. Tai Bai Yunxing received all the Dao marks of the two Featherman Gu Immortals, a rank 6 and a rank 7. He was the biggest winner. Fang Yuan's harvests were also not small. The origin of this group of Feathermen was a big deal, and there was also Sacred Feather City. The origins could be traced back to the late antiquity era. The era of spectral soul demon Venerable A as the leader of Sacred Feather City. The rank 7 Gu Immortal, Zhang Ling, held plenty of secrets, immortal killer moves, immortal Gu recipes, and so on. It was likely he even had a complete Gu Immortal inheritance. The Green Heaven Fragment world was isolated from the outside world for this long. Sacred Feather City could be said to be a paradise for Feathermen. This was a huge settlement of Feathermen among those remaining in the world. Because they had very few interactions with the outside world, and the Green Heaven Fragment world had plenty of resources, these Featherman Gu Immortals' methods were quaint, having distinctive characteristics. Of the late antiquity era, Fang Yuan even had an expectation. If his luck was good, maybe he could get a strength path inheritance from Zhang Ling's soul. The only pity was those mortal Feathermen. Fang Yuan had been planning to raise those Feathermen as slaves to help him penetrate the market in Western Desert, or even establish a caravan. Feathermen were high-quality slaves in Western Desert. Super forces and large forces, all of them had Featherman-based caravans. It was impossible for Fang Yuan to only do business with Shao Clan in the early stage. He indeed had to rely on Shao Clan as a springboard to stably enter Western Desert's market. But Fang Yuan would suffer losses if he only engaged with Shao Clan on the long term. But these mortal Feathermen were dead already. From their temperament, they were too well pampered, and it would be an arduous process to tame them. Instead, it was much more convenient to directly purchase Featherman slaves. Fang Yuan was not someone who dwelled on the past, and soon threw this matter to the back of his mind. He already possessed change form Immortal Gu, and had fused it into the Immortal Killer move, vaguely familiar face. Fang Yuan originally intended to change into another appearance to go to Northern Plains Zombie Alliance and continue his previous foiled plan. But after contacting Fairy Li Shan, Fang Yuan analyzed and deduced that the situation was not good. Ever since Feng Jiugu had investigated the identity of Sha Huang, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was much more strict in examining any unknown immortal zombie that wanted to join the alliance. It was no longer as easy as before for Fang Yuan to infiltrate into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, and Feng Jiugu, Old Lord Kenyang, and the rest of the group had gone into hiding, which made Fang Yuan feel that a storm was brewing. Fang Yuan hesitated. Was he still going to follow the plan to make his way into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance under this situation?